Early for us this evening. So everyone, I studied Robert's Rules of Orders. And because of that, I actually have a script. And we're ready to go. So before we officially start today's meeting, we would like to welcome everyone and let you know that it's my intention as your chair that we create a space where every member of the board feels safe. Well, we're a commission, so every member of the commission feels seen, heard, respected, and valued. So with that said, I call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, November 18th. And moving on, the first item of business on the agenda is the approval of the minutes.
I think I need
Oh,
to
no.
take the roll.
Oh, gee willikers, I've already screwed up. All right. I was doing good, you guys, doing good. All right. I was so proud of myself. All right, B. Don't worry, I'll get it memorized. So first, we're going to do a call to order. So roll call. Carmen.
Yes, different order than usual. I alphabetized these since the last meeting. So Annie Adams.
Present.
I'm Carmen Franks. Choshi Huang.
Present.
Susan Jones. Present. Bruce Mickelson.
Present.
Kev Murphy.
Present.
Keenan Portis. Sarthak Prasad. Sarah Rand. Nancy Westcott.
Present.
That's it.
All right. And with that, we have a quorum. So the next item on the agenda is changes to the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda? All right. Hearing none. Next, we're going to move on to the first item of business on the agenda, which is the approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting?
They were not ready yet, so we'll have to approve those at the next meeting.
You're screwing up my script, Carmen. All right. I know, I was just teasing. All right, so next we're moving on to, do we have any public input? I do not see anyone here with public input, so we're going to move on from there. Moving on to unfinished business, vacancies, youth representatives. And that, I think, is Carmen.
Yeah.
All right.
So with your agenda packet on the last page, if you just flip it over, I have proposed an update to the bylaws. So at the previous meeting, I talked about having the mayor appoint the 2 youth members. But with some internal discussions, we decided that at the city that we don't really need these to be appointments, that BPAC could just elect the youth members. So I'm proposing to leave the language like we talked about last month, where we're allowing 1 or 2 residents of Urbana or non-resident students of the Urbana School District, and we'll call them youth representatives, so not members. They're not officially members of the commission, so they don't impact our quorum. They shall not have the authority to vote on any matter considered by the commission that may bind the commission, the city, or any of its departments, but may vote on motions that make non-binding recommendations. That hasn't changed since before. And then I updated the language to say that they would be between the ages of 14 and 18 years old, so that allows an 18-year-old to stay on the commission if they're still a student. And I just said that each representative shall have 1-year term renewable by the vote of the commission instead of their term renewable by the mayoral appointment. So you can see the language I've proposed on the last page. I did not study Robert's rules over the last month, but I think I can make a motion right now to approve. Yes.
Would it be possible that someone would turn 19? Like if they were held back a year?
I mean, it's possible that you could have any age still in high school.
Well, no, but I'm just thinking how embarrassing it would be to somebody to have to say, well, I'm 19, I was held back, you know. I don't know.
If that comes up, we can change the bylaws again. It's pretty easy to do, as we did last month. So if we do approve this bylaw language, the next step was to have us vote on the 2 students who have applied to be members. And neither of them could be here tonight, but, you know, I invited them, and they're aware of our monthly meetings.
I move we approve the language.
I second that motion.
All right. So all those in favor of approving the, what are we going to call this? The update to the bylaws, as present, please say aye.
Aye.
All- All opposed, say no. And now I need the special language after that. You say, come on, I want to say, no, I want to say the right words. Seeing no further discussion, oh no, we've already done that. It just passes. I think you just say it passes. All right. I thought there was something more magical than that. All right, so there we go.
After the motion, you were supposed to say, is there further discussion?
Yeah, I think, yeah, you're supposed to say, is there further discussion? And then all those in favor of the minutes from last, say aye, all those say no, the chair board. I'm tallying the votes. No, here's the deal. I'm supposed to say the bylaws are approved by voice vote. That was the words I was looking for. All right, so the next item on the agenda is do we want to approve a vote to elect the 2 youth representatives? Or do we not need to do that?
I think we need to do that as well. So I think it's
All
a
right.
motion. I can move to elect Giselle Juarez, I'm going to butcher this name, I'm so sorry, Alquiciera and Tim Friedman to be our youth representatives. Urbana High School.
I second the motion.
All right, so, is there any discussion?
Do they make the quorum like we do?
No, they do not impact quorum.
Like, so do they just show up and like just join our meetings?
Yes.
Okay. So,
All right. And do we, I guess my question would be, we have their names, we know that they go to Urbana High School. We talked about residency issues in the past. Do we as a commission care to have more information? Do we need more information, or are we feeling pretty confident here? All right.
Did they fill out applications, just out of curiosity?
Yeah.
Yes, they did. I have more information if you would like it, but
I mean, I met both the students, and they seem like great students. I actually knew Tim from when I was student teaching over at the high school. So I've heard great things about both of them, and I'm excited for them to join the commission.
yeah. And I think Giselle, again, I'm so sorry if I'm saying her name wrong, was involved with the Day of the Dead planning, I believe. And I think both of them were involved with the bike and roll to work, or bike and roll to school day that was recently held. So they have expressed strong interest.
Yeah, and I've also met both of them. I'm on the Urbana High School PTSA, and I've met them there. I've met them at Day of the Dead. I met them at the Bike and Roll to School Day, and they're great. I think they'll be really great, and I'm very excited, and I would like to welcome them to the commission. And I'm very grateful for their time. So thank you very much for volunteering to be here with us. Yep, so at this point, we will be so we will, all right, so,
We need to vote.
yeah, we just need to vote. So all those who are in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those, yep, great. All those opposed, say no. And then we say this is approved by voice vote. They are elected by voice vote. All right, and then the next order of business is vacancies, vice chair. And on the table is a vote to elect. I'm hoping Bruce read the agenda ahead of time.
I checked with him in advance.
You were here. That's what we said. All right, so do we have any discussion or thought on this? Or do we just wish to proceed with a vote? All right, so we will need a first and a second.
Okay, I move to elect Bruce, the vice chair.
I second.
All right, so all those in favor of voting to elect Bruce to the vice chair, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. All right, Bruce, you are officially the vice chair and have been approved by voice vote. Next, we have reports of city officials and staff and reports of committees. So we have, the first one on the agenda is e-bikes, bike share working group.
Cannon, can you help me out on this? If I'm understanding it right, and I conveyed this to Annie and to Carmen, we're sort of at a point where we need to see as much as we can about the covenants worked out by Champaign and by the university in order to come up with any recommendations which are in alignment, insofar as common sense obtains there, with what they're doing. What we wanted to avoid is a situation where everybody goes in their own direction, and as a result, nothing gets enforced or even countenanced because there's such a scattering. Does that make, we haven't talked about this, you and me, does that make sense as a way?
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
You're like racking your brain.
I was putting it all together.
We've done a couple of Zoom meetings, and then we haven't talked to Sarthak recently.
No, are we still awaiting information from Sarthak?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yep, and do we have,
I think,
do
I
we
mean,
have the
I
whole
have-
Champaign document?
I have all the information from Champaign.
Okay,
I think Sarthak has access to the agreement for U of I because he helped put that together.
he's under some restrictions, though, in terms of what he can review.
Sure, but he has the knowledge that he could contribute to the working group. And
Okay,
I think you can also use the current, well, current's an incorrect word, but the code that we have in place regarding bike share system, which has been sunset, but it's still there. We can still use that as a basis.
all right.
We just have to take out the language that depends upon the other two entities.
So a reasonable next step is for us to interact with Sarthak on you about getting a Zoom set up.
I don't think I can be involved or we're going to
We don't have any
violate the
cities-
OMA. But we do have planners. We have one planner expected to start on December 1st.
Okay,
Hopefully another planner starting soon after that. And our planning group expects to have some person dedicated to this. So
Okay.
we are awaiting a person there that can help. But that shouldn't stop the three of you from getting together if you have ideas for the draft.
okay, and I'm just checking if we do that as a working group, we can set up a Zoom without going through city auspices and just do it like civilians.
Yes, our working groups are informal. They are not formal subcommittees.
Just don't want to hit any tripwires here.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Should
why
I, should
don't
I start a Zoom call?
We could do a Zoom call next week, maybe, makes sense? Pick a date,
It's on my calendar, where we regularly meet at 10 a.m. on Wednesdays,
which would be
so,
tomorrow.
yeah. I
A
can,
little tight for us to get Sarthak up to speed on that, and,
Yeah.
and so.
I think I'm not available tomorrow, actually,
Okay,
as
so-
well.
All right, why don't I email you and Sarthak
Okay.
and see if we can find a time, like, next week, doesn't have, when.
Early on.
Yeah, early on, obviously. When we could, or maybe later this week.
Maybe later this week. I might be out of town next week for Thanksgiving.
Sure. All right, let me get an email out and see what kind of responses we get, and we can set it up quickly.
Okay, that works.
And at least touch base that way with what we have. Okay, all right, okay.
I just have one question. Last month, Cynthia Hoyle presented a really great, well, a presentation, she presented a presentation, but on e-bikes about what was legal and what was not. And I don't know if, probably it doesn't have anything to do with the contract, but I'm just hoping that you can review that and see what she had to say. I thought it was really, well, for me, it was really informative. I'm not that up on e-bikes, but I thought it was really a great presentation.
Yeah.
So,
You're right, I think that's obliquely related to what we're doing. Our order of business, what's on our plate is VO, and sorting out what kind of performance and compensation issues are related to VO. But you're right, I mean, I brought e-bikes up when I first joined this committee. It's an issue which is ramifying. You just saw the city of Muhammad put out a kind of a loose warning about 5 or 6 days ago. Watch out for the scooters. So if they're up there in pastoral Muhammad, they're clearly here too. And the price keeps dropping and the number of retailers keeps proliferating. And a lot of people in big cities and smaller are scratching their heads trying to figure out what to do. My hope is we can stay vigilant on this without trying to reinvent the wheel on our own. So,
To clarify, Cynthia's presentation was on e-bikes versus e-motos. There's going to be legislation that they're going to propose at the state level through Bike Illinois that's going to ask to, if you have an e-moto, you would not be able to buy them on Amazon. You would have to get a license for them. There would be stricter regulations on them. E-motos go over 20, and one way to remember this is 20 is plenty, no matter what vehicle you're in, and e-motos easily go over 20. And so they're causing issues because they look like e-bikes, and they're creating a lot of chaos in different spaces. So that was part of the presentation that was pretty interesting, because she just showed a picture on Amazon. Anyone can buy them at any place, and so it would be restricting their sales in Illinois and trying to find other ways to raise awareness of e-bikes versus e-motos.
it's like
So-
AI, it keeps morphing. There are now scooters out there that go 50. And that scares the heck out of me as a parent and a grandparent. But we're gonna have to breathe hard to catch up with this. So I'm glad to know the legislature's gonna do something about e-motos. How they write that to cover what's coming next is gonna be an open question.
So one more thing about e-bikes, bike share program. We have been working internally on the procedure for when a VO bike is blocking a sidewalk. So first, if someone calls in and has an issue, we need to determine if it's a hazardous situation. If it is, and it needs to be immediately addressed, our Public Works Operations crew can get a request to go remove that bike. But I see these instances as pretty rare. This would be like if a bike is in the middle of the road, it's causing an immediate issue. Otherwise, we will continue to recommend that residents email hello@voride.com. I think I shared that last month. When you do that, you can share a photo of the bike that needs to be moved. And so far, I think VO has been pretty responsive to emails coming into that address. If somebody doesn't want to email, there's the phone number that's on the bike. That's 1-855-VO-2256 to make a request. That probably takes you up to the Chicago office, and so then you have to be more descriptive about where the bike is placed. That might take longer to be addressed, but it's still an option. If a resident is uncomfortable doing either of those, city staff is willing to make that request for them. So Public Works can do that, or we know calls do come into our community development group and to the police as well. So I've shared this information with all of them. We've all been talking internally about this. If a resident has already done that, they've already emailed and the bike has been there for more than 3 hours, I'm saying the request can come directly to me, and, then we have other ways that we can communicate with VO. Like, we will potentially start calling the local operations manager directly, but this hasn't really come up yet. So I'm optimistic that using that hello@voride.com email address will be efficient enough. Yeah, that's it. Oh, and we updated the website language to reflect that. So.
Thank you, Carmen. That's fantastic. And I know a few years back, I was on a working group, and we worked on when people park in bike lanes, what we can do to raise awareness of that, and we can ticket people in bike lanes now. So I think that's also some really very exciting move that we've made happen. There's not statewide legislation about vehicles parking in bike lanes, but maybe someday that will happen. I see moves towards it. Up in Chicago, they're doing a variety of things to get vehicles out of bike lanes and making it illegal. So we'll see if something like that happens here. So that would be great.
Our code does say that you can't obstruct the bike lane with anything, whether it's a VO bike or whatever, boxes, package, anything.
Yeah, it was a kind of a kerfuffle because we wanted the University of Illinois to enforce it on the new MCOR because we were getting cracks. The bike lanes on MCOR at the university on Green Street were cracking because trucks kept parking there because it's not built. They construct the streets. The streets are constructed to hold trucks, and it costs less money to construct bike lanes if you don't build them to hold trucks. So, but the trucks don't know this, so they just park there. They don't understand even that they're inconveniencing people, but they're also destroying infrastructure that will never get fixed. So it was problematic, and we were trying to figure out a way to we were like, could you just ask FedEx, the United States Postal Service, UPS, so on and so forth, just ask people, please don't park there, like you're literally breaking infrastructure and making it very unsafe and scary for people. But we eventually made it so if, like, parking can now ticket cars that are parked in bike lanes. So that's good news.
I also have my monthly city official report, if we're ready for my lengthy project updates. Okay, so for shared use path projects, Florida Avenue shared use path, same update as last month. The plans are 90% complete. We've cleared the SHPO review. The work is still planned for 2026. But construction may be pushed back to 2027 just to coincide with the larger Florida Avenue street project. Baker's Lane shared use path, that construction started on October 20th. That's Foyt's is the contractor doing that work. They intend to work through the end of this month, break for the winter, and then return in April to complete the work. With the Washington Street segment to be done during the summer break for the school district. Again, all work to be completed by mid-August. The mid-block crossing on Main Street has been partially built. The path has been cleared, and the construction fencing is getting installed as the contractor prepares for the winter shutdown. Perkins Road shared use path, that is, construction is substantially complete on that project. For roadway projects, Country Club Road and Perkins Road. This includes the widening of the south side sidewalk to a shared use path per the bike and pedestrian master plans, and widening a new sidewalk on the north side between Willow Road and Cunningham. That project went out for bid on October 24th. Lowest bidder was A&R, and they were coming in around the engineer's estimate. Construction there is still expected to be completed next year, 2026. Lincoln Avenue Corridor Study, no updates since last month, since council approved the endorsement of the study recommendations back in July. Lincoln Avenue from Washer to Killarney, that's North Lincoln Avenue. The SS4A grant funding is still under review by the federal DOT. Public outreach phase has been underway along with the concept plan. And we're expected to bid the Complete Streets demonstration in early 2026 and complete the demonstration in summer of 2026. We'll complete the phase 2 in time to bid the project for construction in FY '28. Florida Avenue from Wright to Hillcrest, so this is mentioned earlier with the shared use path on Florida. This is the street project. The intersection design details are still getting reviewed by IDOT. After the review is done, the city does still plan to come and present to BPAC maybe next month in December. Illinois and Vine Street, the phase 1 design is nearly complete. So this project includes Illinois from Race to Vine, Vine from Illinois to Maine. Design is likely to include lane reductions on both Vine and Illinois and turn lane changes at the intersections and crosswalk improvements. Traffic signal improvements, these are the updates to the audio devices. We're moving toward the final bid documents. The letting is expected in January. Sidewalk projects, sidewalk improvements, the FY '25 sidewalk improvements have been completed. The sodding and restoration has been completed. The final quantities are reviewed, so it's substantially complete. We do have some TIF 4 sidewalk improvements, so these are repairs to existing sidewalk on the west side of Cunningham from Kerr to Country Club Road. The bids for that project were opened on October 24th with the project awarded to Foyt's. That construction is to be completed in 2026. Okay, now equity and quality, sorry, this is always so long. We're doing a lot of stuff, guys. So, equity and quality. The equity and quality, I just say talking for so long. The equity and quality of life projects, these are the streetlights from FY '22. That construction is complete. This is the same update I gave last week about how engineering checked out the brightness after our September meeting, and we sent comments to the designer who reached out to the vendor with potential options, but I haven't heard anything back yet. The FY '25 program, this includes sidewalks, ramps, streetlights, and some traffic calming devices on Broadway, Kerr, and Cottage Grove. That design is underway. The design of the sidewalk improvements in the Silverwood neighborhood is approaching the 90% complete, expecting an early 2026 letting for that sidewalk project. And then grants, no updates since last month. So working on grants for things not related to bicycle and pedestrian issues this month. That's all I got.
So I have 3 things. One, letting, can you define that for me?
Oh, that means putting it out for bid for construction.
Okay. Second, Keenan, were you here when we talked about the North Lincoln Avenue project and we talked about adding bike lanes on this, on like one possibility, not, it's long, I mean, it will be a few minutes, but would be putting an 8-foot side path right next to the park that would go all the way down to the restaurant. I just call it the restaurant. How far down does that go? It goes down to the highway, right?
King Park?
Yeah, if we were to the North Lincoln Avenue project. Yeah, there would be like an 8-foot side path that would be on the side of the park, and it would go towards the highway. Is one of it's what they're going to be doing. Were you here for that presentation before you were here?
It's already in our grants.
Yep. Okay, so I don't think you were here when the presentation was here for when the city presented on. You was here? You were, then you're fine. That was all I cared about, yeah.
They had a separate meeting with
Amazing. All right. I'm just have this like deep fantasy that we're going to get that park beautified, you know, like just all fancied up, and then we're going to get an 8-foot side path, and it's going to be dreamy.
We'll have a side path plan already.
That's fine. Okay. Fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah, I was thinking, I was more that when the city presented a few options of on-street bike paths or a separate one, we were all very excited about a possibility for a separate one. Okay. So my third thing is a concern. Dutch Brothers is under construction. Very excited about the Dutch Brothers. I'm not going to tell you my nickname for it. Okay, so the Dutch Brothers, so right now there's cones in the bike, completely covering the bike lanes and the sidewalks. So I was walking here this evening and I crossed the street and I was like, oh, heck. So if there's any way we can find a way to make that better for people on bikes and who are walking. I know once I finally made it around to the other, once I made it through I walked on the white stripe of the bike lane, and I got to the end and there was a sidewalk closed sign there. So that was helpful. But even if you see a sidewalk closed sign there, you still have to cross the street at that point, which isn't great. So if there's just a way to make it safer for folks, it'd be great. Because I don't know how long that construction's going to be going on for.
This is Green and Lincoln, or we're talking
Yep.
about here? Okay.
Yep, Green and Lincoln, yeah.
I believe the announcement had that slated for just a week, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure we can open that up anymore for you while they're under construction. I think the best we will be able to do is maybe put the signs in better locations so that it's clear where you will need to cross in advance.
Yeah, because I was thought about trying to move the orange cones, but the problem is if you move the orange cones to the white light lines, then there's like a 3-foot drop off into the new Dutch Brothers cutaway, and I was like, well, that's not really good. That's not a great idea. So I was just curious, if it's like just a week, that's fine. It's just like, if this is gonna be months, we better fancy it up a little more, would be my suggestion. Yeah,
I don't think so, but I can look into that.
yeah. Shoshi, were you gonna say something? Do you have?
Because the North Lincoln Avenue, I don't know how long the project, I mean, where is like the most north of this project, but I think MTD did receive some data request about about ridership at either Link apartment or one of the big apartments. I think somebody, because there are so many, residents, so they need to cross the street, which is not safe for them. I don't know if this has ever been brought up in those Lincoln Avenue corridor study or not, but I think there are some pedestrians looking for maybe a better way to cross the street at that section.
I think it's the person who I was gonna have present on today.
Wait, are you still talking about Lincoln and Green? Or are you
We're
talking
back
about
to North
Oh,
Lincoln. We're back to
North
North Lincoln
Lincoln.
Avenue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that should be incorporated into the project. I believe the project has been working with MTD
Yes.
placement.
No, I'm talking about like somebody reached out to MTD to looking for ridership data to support their
Oh, I see.
observation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think we've put there's a person who did a really great campaign. They put up, they made a website, they were taking survey data, they did a lot of work on that area. They did not realize that North Lincoln Avenue was in a project study area and was gonna be improved. And so what we did was I found out about the survey, and I reached out to the person and I said, would you be willing to talk directly to the city engineers? And it turns out the person is an engineer, so, not a city, it's a person studying engineering. So I think it ought to be a pretty good and productive discussion. And I'll also reach out to him as well and just sit down and have a talk with him, because it's very exciting to see that he did that. He just had no idea that this was going on at the city in this whole discussion. And so, but it's good to see him interested in this data and trying to find solutions. I think it's exciting.
Yep.
So, yeah, cool. Thanks for bringing that up. All right, we are on to new business, snow removal, public announcements, and encouraging shoveling. I believe this is Nancy.
Yeah, but also, so in one of the handouts that I provided is what we were working on earlier in the year. So it's this one right here with the red and blue text in the middle. On the one side is what the city put out as the release, the news release date of January 6th. And then on the other is just updated language that we all agreed upon. When I brought this to the city, after we all discussed it and finalized it, they did not want to make these changes because leadership wanted to have this as a separate announcement, like encouraging everyone to remove the snow even outside of these specific removal districts. So like this would be the removal requirement, and then we'd also have an announcement that's in removal encouragement or a suggestion. I don't know how you want to phrase that. So I don't have any traction other than that. I'm just updating you on, or filling y'all in where we left off. And then I thought we could open this up for discussion of what we want to do now with this new snow season upon us. And if we can't come up with anything right now in, I don't know, a few minutes, maybe we could move this into a working group and have, you know, a few people just focus on this and come up with ideas for how to encourage people to remove the snow outside of their properties. Or not, I don't know, just throwing this out there because I think this was of interest to the group.
So the desirable thing would be to have a similar announcement kind of ready to go the next time we get hit with a snowstorm?
I'm not saying that's my desire, I'm opening this
I'm
up to.
asking that as a general,
Yeah.
general question, to have something that could be immediately promulgated.
Right, I think whether it's a separate PSA or the same PSA, it just seems like it should be put out there because they've done a prediction, it seems like it would be really timely to have it sent out at the same time as there's a potential snowfall.
My first instinct as a pathological editor is to try to cut this by half. I mean, if you want people to read it, get
Well-
it down to a handful of bullet points, courteous but clear and firm, and just get it out so people who have no patience at all can at least get the gist of it. I mean, so,
In a separate announcement then?
well,
I don't think I have much influence over this one based on my experience.
I'm not telling you to do it.
earlier.
I
Yes.
thought if the idea is to have something sort of on file that we can put out, that the city can put out
Sure.
when it gets deep out there. Having made that noise, if you think we have enough time before we get clobbered, I think we do, I could try to cook this down to something blunt
Okay.
and circulate it to the group, and you could talk about it next time and just, and have that,
And
using boldface and bullet
Nancy
points.
shared with me, but ahead of this meeting, the document titled PACE that has some general,
Yeah, I think PACE is going to send it out, but I don't think it's going to, the trouble with agencies sending it out, I mean, I don't know that they'll do it for every single snowstorm.
right?
So that's why I was thinking that if it should go, a separate PSA probably should go out, because we don't want to summarize this whole thing, because we have no control over that. So if we just took out the couple of paragraphs that we put in and shortened them, I think just as a PSA sent out to all the media, then I think that would be a great idea. But I think there are only 2 paragraphs that are really relevant in this that we could summarize.
Okay, let me take a shot at it, and then, what are our PSA outlet points? TV station nobody watches, I mean, what do we do? Where do we get, when we want to get something like this out to the public, what's the most
Oh.
effective way for doing it?
So the city can do that. There's a email for media that it goes out to. I don't know who all the contacts are on there, but
Yeah, I suspect it's radio, TV.
Okay, let's do it. I'll take a shot at it for next time then. I'll circulate it before that. Okay? As a
Okay, and
a
I can,
document to review.
I can send you, I sent a couple of short things that Pace, Pace put out and one that MTD put out.
Nice.
And you can just see what their verbiage is, and,
Again, consistency is a good idea, right? Sure.
yeah.
My other thought is a series of limericks that we put out on social media. Make videos. Bridget would love us. Bridget would be like, go for it. All right. So we are now moving on to the 2026 meeting schedule. So we don't need to review the schedule, do we? We're good on that?
Well, we haven't set it yet.
That's what I was
so
wondering.
we
Okay.
we don't need to vote this month, but I think next month we'll need to vote to set the schedule for the next year.
Okay.
So there are a few things here.
All right.
I first printed out our goals, again, just as a reminder, what we're working on. And then this other sheet that doesn't have much on it, but these were my ideas for some working groups, but open to anything that the group is interested in, of course. So I've been talking about having a working group related to ADA compliance. Still planning to do that. Sarah's not here, but I can volunteer because she's not here. But I think she's very interested in being a part of that working group. So there's at least 2 of us that are interested in ADA compliance group. And just briefly, the purpose would be to update the ADA transition plan once that's updated, or, if, myself and the ADA coordinator with the city get that updated, then the purpose of the group would be just to help the city accomplish those goals that are in the plan. The next one, we've been talking so much lately about event planning. This could be a public education, outreach, event planning group for planning events related to bicycle and pedestrian education and safety. We've already got the bike share committee going. Sounds like we don't need a snow removal group, but that was a topic of interest, so I just threw that out there. And then anything else that comes up, I know in the past and in the goals, there's been talk about like advocacy and working towards specific legislation, so maybe that's related to Annie's presentation later. We might learn some things there and have a need for an advocacy group. I don't know. So anyway, with this, I was thinking we would have these working groups that could meet monthly or more frequently if they so choose. And then BPAC could reduce the number of meetings that we all meet as a larger group to maybe, or I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Working groups would meet every other month. BPAC would meet every other month. So we all meet monthly still, but every other month we meet with our individual working group and work on things in that group and then report back to the larger group. I'm open to suggestions. Just
Yeah, one thing so I'd be interested in events, public education outreach. I would definitely like to be on that working group. And then that can morph into something. I'm interested in bike ambassadors, a bike ambassador program. It's tricky, but anyway, a bike ambassador program and advocacy. But yeah, I would definitely be interested in being on the events working group. And I guess, yeah, the real question we have to ask ourselves is, would we be more effective if we were met in these groups once a month and then came together on every other month as a larger group to discuss what we talked about in the working group? So I think that's what's on the table right now.
I've got an impression that with the working groups, the responsibilities and emergencies and challenges are less regular. I mean, for example, with the bike share thing, our order of business is to get this contract advised about. And then with regard to specifically bike share, we can go silent for a while. I imagine that's true of other things. When ADA regulations come down or money comes available for improvements, that group is going to have to meet more frequently and vigorously than when things are quiet, budgetarily and otherwise. So we do the language, that the working groups will meet a minimum of every 2 months with an explicit or implicit understanding they'll meet more frequently as necessary.
Yeah, and my thought is that these can evolve, and we can add working groups as we finish one. We can start another one, just as different topics come up that we want to work on, and maybe treat them as projects. And you can be on multiple groups too, if you're interested in multiple things.
And I guess at least one time this year, we had a vote by email. And I think if there was an emergency thing that came up, we could do that again. Just thinking about, if there was some contract or something that really needed to be worked on with a short
I
deadline.
was working on the grant application, yeah.
I just wonder, since we usually have a full agenda every month, can we really cut back that much?
And
I
how-
hate to say this, but if we change the bylaws for the meetings to go later, we might be able to.
Well, again, you might be able to put into the bylaws a minimum of once every 2 months with an understanding that when the agenda gets busy, we go back to a monthly schedule on an ad hoc basis. That might work. That makes sense as a possible.
I was gonna say, Carmen, do you see the meetings like having like offset each other? Like this month is the working group, the next month is like this full meeting. So do you see the working groups like they switch over a lot? Because maybe this year we have this bike share problem, maybe next year we have a different working group. So maybe because now I'm not in any of those working groups, so I'm just like,
Right, so I was
Right.
thinking, my proposal would be that everyone sign up for at least one working group.
but we also need to come up with like the topic of the working groups, right?
Yeah, if it isn't one that I've already suggested, then we would have something else, add something else to it,
Um,
based on the goals. That's why I brought the goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking all the working groups would meet, 1 month. Maybe they don't all have to meet on the third Tuesday of that month. If that doesn't work for that group, you could meet any time. Since it's informal, you meet where and when you choose. And then the next month, we all meet together.
We did have a computer working group a number of years ago, and we just met in between the regular meetings, so, I do think a minimum of every other month would be fine. That would be kind of a way that you could call another meeting, a regular monthly meeting.
Yeah. Or if we're feeling ambitious enough, we could do monthly BPAC meetings still and monthly working group meetings, but then I think it's tougher to say everyone has to be in a working group.
Is there a way to build in working group time during a BPAC meeting? So having like one of the months, like we just adjourn early and then the rest of the hour is the working group meetings. So we know every other month the public meeting ends and then we are all in the same space and meet separately for our working groups.
I think as long as we don't continue discussion with more than 3 people on BPAC-related topics, so we're not violating OMA.
I wonder if we just kept the recording on, if that would be, like the meeting would be,
If we have multiple working groups, then we'd have multiple discussions happening at once.
yeah.
Group cannot be more than 3 people
Right.
and
Yes.
a city liaison, no?
If the city liaison is not me, then yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I quite like that idea of us all meeting while we're here, like, because these meetings always go till 9. Like, I always think like, this is it, this is the day, it's gonna, nope. So I'm wondering if you could just ask if there's a way to do like an hour, like if, because like part of the open meetings is not discussing city business amongst ourselves. Like, I'm just trying to figure out like a way to do, is it just, maybe just ask somebody at the city if they can think of a way that we could do that. I mean, I know we could adjourn the meeting at 1 hour, and then we could all meet separately. But then the problem I have with that is we'd all meet separately in this room, and then we'd all have so many good ideas, and we'd all want to report, you know what I mean? We'd all want to report back to each other. Yeah. Or you start the meeting, the first hour of the meeting is the working groups.
That was what I was thinking.
Yeah, that might be the way to do it.
And that, an hour dedicated to working groups, and then, and we could also like just try it for 4 months.
Yeah. Yeah, and it would be every other month, right? Is what we're thinking, or every month, I'm not sure. We could just,
I think the working groups could be, I mean, the working groups have to be more flexible. Because there's going to be working groups that have to figure out the things,
yeah,
that
you're right.
want to meet later this week.
You're right.
But then if they're, so they meet when they can and do that stuff, but then like the first half an hour or so is dedicated to the working groups figuring out what they're going to do, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Or we keep on doing it the way we're doing it.
And here we are.
I'm good with whatever. I just like the consistency of once a month. It just, it's good for my calendar. It's good for my mental calendar.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have to decide now. We can think about this over the next month, and I can propose something in December. For now, I have a sign-up sheet for the working groups if anyone wants to mark what you're interested in, and I will pick it up at the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Carmen. I appreciate all your thought on this. So I guess that leads to me, I'm going to be doing a presentation on SB 2111. So I will go over there and start the presentation. Okay, so on October 31st of this year, a huge piece of legislation was passed, and that is Senate Bill 2111, so SB 2111. And what I'm going to talk about is specifically the impact on the city of Urbana, Illinois, walking, biking, and transit systems. And I have many favorite Martin Luther King Jr. quotes, but this one in particular seems to work really well with what this new bill does. It's whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. So what this new bill really talks about is how, for the first time ever, the state of Illinois is dealing with all forms of transportation as being interconnected. And I just want to show a quick video here from Brian Greenless, who is a University of Illinois civil engineering student. And he says, I try to put public transit in new perspective, one which demonstrates that mass transit systems are a great unifier, connecting the end of a city to the other, connecting thousands from their homes to the rest of their lives. Trains and buses are the blood cells keeping cities alive. And I'm just going to show just a second of this. So what he does is he animates transit maps. He figures out how fast he does math and figures it out. And he puts these on Instagram, and he's done them around the world. And he's currently a student here, so he worked on the mass transit district here.
Well, fun fact that we, MTD, noticed him even before he joined the university when he was still a high school student. Because obviously he was searching for schools. He found us. So he started working on our system, doing all the kinds of amazing maps, redesign our system maps. So we noticed him because he tagged us every single time he posts about MTD. So we know him back then.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. There's a really nice article that's been written about him on the Granger College of Engineering wrote an article on him, and my husband, Bruce Adams, actually wrote the article, and my husband, Bruce Adams, actually discovered that he knows his dad through punk rock days. So it was kind of, he was like, oh, this is your son. Oh, this is very DIY. I get it. So it's very cool. So it's just a nice story about a resident in our city. So when the Illinois this is a quote from the High Speed Rail Association. When the Illinois General Assembly passed its $1.5 billion transit package, it did something more profound than stabilize budgets or prevent service cuts. It fundamentally reconceived the role of passenger rail and public transportation in the state's economic and social fabric and wrote that vision directly into law. This isn't a maintenance bill, it's a systems building bill. And so there's a photograph here of, whoa, I'm spacing. This is the street right by Huaraches. It was an EQL grant. So there's a photograph of a street under construction. This over 1,000-page bill outlines a new approach to public transportation throughout the entire state of Illinois. It treats mobility as essential infrastructure rather than a social service. It includes new regulations designed to spark development near transit stops and bring passenger rail service to new cities. This is a little bit in the weeds for what we're talking about tonight, but I just kind of need you to know that there's something called the Regional Transportation Authority. They will be going away. They will be replaced by the Northern Illinois Transit Authority Act, NETA. And NETA is going to be much more powerful than the RTA, and they are tasked with creating one network, one timetable, one ticket, and coordinating that timing. So coordinating the timing between an Amtrak train that comes in to all the other train services and all the other methods people move through cities and the state, frankly. Blurred lines. And so there's a picture of, well, it's actually Sue, but I was going to say there's a picture of a woman on a bike and there's people running behind her and she's on a street, but it's Sue. And it's the marathon. So normally non-car movement is a problem to be managed, a service, a budget line to be minimized, an operation to be kept from collapsing. Illinois is treating transit, intercity rail, and active transportation as assets, economic generators to be expanded, improved, and integrated into a coherent network. Intercity, now I have a picture here of downtown Urbana. Downtown Urbana is the Civic Center, will hopefully become a transit hub for us. They had to go through an environmental review, now they're going through a historical, they are mapping the Civic Center right now and making it, they're doing a historical representation of it. And hopefully that will then become the downtown Urbana Transit Hub. So I have a picture of a bus and the courthouse behind it in downtown Urbana. So artificial distinctions. Transit means local buses funded through transit agencies this is very hard for me to get through my head. Transit meant local buses funded through transit agencies and programs. Intercity rail meant Amtrak, funded through federal government and treated as an entirely separate system. So as a person who's been deeply involved in transportation and how it works, you got to follow the money. You always got to follow the money. And so we would have different pots of money for different things, and they were just never connected to each other, which is how you end up with a huge transit debt. So the two lived in two different budget categories, answered to two different priorities, and rarely coordinated. And I just want to add in a quick line here. Something to keep your eyes on in the coming years is something called the Kankakee Extension Study, which is extending the Metra electric line to Champaign, which is replacing the Saluki. And if any of you take the Amtrak, that is the train, with hourly or better service and trips under 2 hours. And if any of you are following the University of Illinois closely, like I am, I work at the Granger College of Engineering, we are building a giant quantum park up in Chicago, and there are going to be a lot more parts and pieces coming out about that quantum park. There's going to be a lot more connectivity that's going to be needed to that quantum park. It is in a transit under-resourced area, so it's deeply problematic to get to it, but people in our city are going to be trying to get to it, and people are going to be trying to get from there to our city, and that quantum park is going to be a massive economic generator for the city, for the entire state of Illinois. So just kind of keep your eye on this in the future. We're not there yet, but I think St. Louis is going to get funded first. But let's see, can I move this forward? There it is. Illinois sales tax, and then on the right, I have a photograph of a man who happens to be my husband in front of a garage that happens to be ours, on a bike and with a silver car in the garage. Illinois sales tax on motor fuels will be directed to transit operations. The sales tax on purchasing fuel, this is the math part of the presentation. The state sales tax on purchasing fuel is a percentage tax set at 6.25%. Changes in fuel prices change the total incoming revenue. This revenue is expected to total $860 million annually, 15% going to downstate operations, and 85% going to NETA, which is what we discussed earlier. The per gallon motor fuel tax set at 0.483 per gallon does not fluctuate with the gas price. It's unaffected by the transit bill. It will continue to fund road construction and maintenance. So that top portion there was majorly controversial for a lot of unions, but we got it through. Interest from the road fund will be used on transit capital spending, estimated at around $200 million, with 10% going to downstate agencies and 90% going to CTA, Metra, and PACE. And I have a picture on the right of a woman walking in snow on the Urbana infrastructure that's in front of the University of Illinois that has buses and yellow pedestrian walk signs. And this is the MCOR project that Urbana spent quite a bit of money on. We got a lot of grant money from the federal government for, but we did spend a lot of time on this, and it is incredibly successful infrastructure. The Illinois Road Fund is, and that the MCOR project was funded, we got the funding during the Obama administration. The Illinois Road Fund is limited to certain uses. So it's just something to be aware of as we're pursuing grant money. It's one such use as public transit programs, but one can look further once this thing starts moving through the system. The other thing to be aware of is we have Weaver Park. So downstate earmarks are targeted grants, benefit system expansion. IDOT will establish a transit to trails grant program to reach recreational areas by transit. Emphasize access for environmental justice communities. So that could potentially mean for us buses to if we can get a route from downtown Urbana to Weaver Park, to the Kickapoo Rail Trail, different things like that. If we can, this is just a way to just be aware that there will be money out there to do these things, and it's targeted and earmarked for downstate. The University of Illinois Willard Airport will be receiving some money. There will be an intercity passenger rail eligible for state transit capital funds, hold your breath, for the first time in history. So there's, for example, $342 million Downstate Transit Improvement Fund, $137.7 million Downstate Mass Transportation Capital Improvement Fund for intercity rail between Chicago and downstate. They also talk very openly about transit as a climate strategy. The legislation explicitly connects, in the picture before on the right was a picture of Weaver Park and a handout from Illinois Extension talking about the grassland prairies and how we have like 0.1% left of our grasslands. Transit as a climate strategy. On the right, we have a picture of, it's a drawing of the MCOR project from years ago. So it's an overhead drone view, and it shows the bike lanes, it shows the sidewalks, the bus lanes, and then the car transit lanes. The legislation explicitly connects transit expansion to greenhouse gas reduction. The statute notes that the transportation sector accounts for approximately 1/3 of the state's greenhouse gas emissions. Public transportation moves people with fewer emissions. Transit expansion as a core climate mitigation strategy. Access climate funding streams that might not otherwise be available to transportation agencies. So that's another way for us to be aware of money that we could funnel into our community. Streets, making transit accessible. I have a picture of 2 buses, full bike racks along a sidewalk, and people walking. And I think this is on the University of Illinois campus. When roads are rebuilt, sidewalk links to stops, boarding pads, and shelters can be included as standard elements. We're going to begin folding first and last mile needs. So that is walking, that is biking, that is scooting, that is that first and last mile needs into normal street work instead of treating them as extras. Allowing transit agencies to partner on residential and commercial development within a 1/4 mile of public trails. So it's going to be a way for transit agencies to build wealth. The law encourages walkable neighborhoods that support ridership while generating value for the system. So it is a systems approach. This bill is talking about creating a systems approach, and we like talking about a safe systems approach. It removes parking minimums. Okay, this is the part that blew my mind. This is the part that really got my attention. We have a photograph on the right of a bunch of women walking on the sidewalk among native plants, and in a street in Urbana. I believe this is Delaware. Doesn't matter. So it removes parking minimums on Lincoln, Green, Washington, and other streets. And I'll get into the weeds on this because this is a big deal. Prohibits mandated parking for new residential, we'll get into what mandated parking means. For new residential and commercial non-hotel uses within a 1/2 mile of a hub, rail stations and bus intersections, 1/8 mile of a corridor, street segment with the buses every 15 minutes at peak times. Removing car parking. So car parking, oftentimes we've had like situations in Urbana where there was a rental house, there were 5 people living in it, but the restriction was that there had to be 5 car parking spots. So people were evicted. The people in the house said, I actually ride my bike, I don't have a car, but because we had parking minimums, there had to be 5 car parking spots instead of, this bill says, there can be no car parking spots. So it creates, removing car parking, if you look at the price of building car parking, I believe it starts at $20,000. It creates more affordable housing, lowers the cost of construction, removes unneeded parking spaces, removes procedural barriers to the building permit process, and makes it more easier to reuse existing buildings and other benefits. And there's links here. And here's the fine print. And so it's called the People Over Parking Act. It goes into effect June 1, 2026. It applies in home rule communities like Urbana. It was introduced by Rep. Cam Buckner, shout out, prohibits municipalities from requiring car parking for residential and commercial uses in areas served by transit. It applies to new construction or renovation that is not a hotel, motel, bed and breakfast, or other transient lodging. Municipalities can enact minimum parking requirements for bicycles. So this is a state mandate. And I have a picture on the right in front of in downtown Urbana. It's Bohemia, and it is the Illinois Marathon. It's a bunch of people running on Race Street. So accessibility and access. And I have a picture of a man holding a walking device with wheels on it and 2 people standing next to him. This one I just included because I thought Nancy and Sarah, you'd find this helpful. Establish an Office of Disability and Policy and Planning for ADA responsibilities, paratransit, and accessibility planning. Existing local dial-a-ride services will be recommended for regional coordination, and NETA will establish a fund to support these local operations under standard service criteria. Establishes a language access program to support limited English speakers. Creates an improved process for eligible visitors to request paratransit services in Illinois when traveling outside their jurisdiction of residence. Another huge deal here is IDOT is changing the way it operates. The Transit Integration Policy Development Committee will be housed within IDOT. The committee is designed to embed transit considerations directly into the state's roadways planning and project delivery. It brings together IDOT leadership, modal and highway staff, regional planners, and local transportation partners, which would be us, to coordinate early input on projects, identify and strengthen transit corridors, and develop roadways and design standards that support buses and intercity service. It shifts IDOT from primarily highway-oriented agency to one that plans roads and transit together as a unified network. This is my last slide. The opportunity now rests in execution, and the country should pay attention. Illinois just became the most important state to watch. And I have a picture of a map of potential build-out for trains and intercity rail, and there's a blue heart on Urbana-Champaign. And that is my last slide. I do have links to all the folks that helped me build this together. I did talk to the Active Transportation Alliance in Chicago, and they are for making walking, biking, and public transit safe and equitable options for getting around Chicagoland, and the Metropolitan Planning Council. I know that was a lot, but does anyone have any questions or thoughts?
Yeah, can you share again what it means to have access to transit according to this? Like you had said, Lincoln, Washington, Green, all would
right.
apply to us. Like what, it was a half mile to just a transit stop?
Yeah, it's
What is
fast.
considered a hub?
Yep. So within a half mile of a hub, rail stations and bus intersections, street segment with buses every 15 minutes at peak times. I know, it's very straightforward. It's not like they try. That's what's so impressive about this bill. I mean, I truly couldn't believe it. That means that people can build housing on, that you have to obviously, show that there are buses every 15 minutes at peak times. But you can now build housing without building parking. And I know Champaign has already eliminated parking minimums, and they've had explosive growth in development because of it. And the numbers have shown that it's much better for everyone involved. But on our side, on the Urbana side of Lincoln Avenue, we have not. We still have parking minimums. So
would an
it's a big
example of
deal.
a bus intersection be like Lincoln Square
Yep.
as opposed to Fairlawn and Anderson, which is just,
No, Fairlawn and Anderson, yep, if there's buses every 15 minutes at peak times. I know there's one bus, I think there's one bus that comes like 19, so you'd have to game it out. But as as the city grows, as the bus system grows, and the bus system would obviously have all this data and be able to, the bus system, I'm sure, will figure out exactly where these spaces are because developers will want to build without building parking. It's creates affordable housing.
I do see more data requests coming in from all over, maybe city, maybe developer want to say, hey, where do your buses run? Yeah, but I want to say this bill is so encouraging. It made our CEO over the moon. So it's basically saying it's really secure our operation fundings and even giving us more operation fundings so we are able to extend service, to expand service. But because this is so new, so we haven't figured out yet where do we need to spend all those fundings or like how to lay out that into actual transit plans. But this is really good news, and thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and the governor still needs to this governor needs to sign it, is the final step. The governor does want to sign it. The governor worked closely with everybody. There was a lot of horse trading to try to get this done, as you can only imagine. So it's just a huge win. It's a huge win for the state of Illinois. I'm trying to see if I have more. I went into weeds. I have two. I have two slides. I didn't include the downstate blues, I call it. The downstate transit operations came in at 129 million. The goal was 200 million. We are getting a pass downstate at some of the final revenue sources, like the sales tax increase. So if at some point we need more, we will go, we can do what upstate's doing. So it is a significant, like you were just saying, it is a significant increase in downstate transit funding and land use provision, including parking reform and transit agency development powers. And again, it's statewide. This is sort of really in the weeds, but technically the Illinois, we can construct railroad tracks on highways. So we could do that, but that's very much in the weeds, and not on the table that I'm aware of. But yeah, and Carmen, I can get you more information on exactly, I'm trying to see if I have, yeah, I didn't want to get too far in the weeds on what the exact regulation is on that, but it's buses. It's pretty incredible.
So you were talking a lot about intra-city, so within a city. So, but then you mentioned from Kankakee to Champaign-Urbana, that would be intercity.
Intra. Yeah, so intra-city or would be between Kankakee and here.
So
So
that's
you would-
between, so do you know the proportion that would be between cities and the proportion within cities?
You mean the terminology?
No, the amount of money, because to go
Oh.
between cities would be massively expensive.
It is going to be massively expensive to build transit, and they're going to do, the concept is to build transit. We're spending a ton of money right now at Willard Airport as well, but that's a University of Illinois asset, but it's building a train. Have you ever, in Chicago, so we have Amtrak, but then there's also like Metra, and there's a South Shore Line, and there's a variety of different train systems that operate. And there's what everybody knows, the CTA, and then you got buses, and then but it's coordinating all of it from Amtrak. It's talking about building new train systems, and that's you can't really see on the map because it's so tiny, but that's part of what Kankakee would become a hub. Because one of the issues with, I'm going to start dorking out over trains, but one of the issues with Chicago is when trains come in there, they start moving 12 miles per hour. And we have that thanks to, honestly, Lincoln, so the President Lincoln. So because all the train systems are coming through there, whether it's for freight or passenger. And that's what happens with the Amtrak. You take the Amtrak in, it has to back up, it goes forward. You're like, oh, Lord, just let me out. So that's one of the issues, is it's unwinding that spaghetti mess that we've created. But it is millions. Just to build like an overpass for these trains is millions of dollars. So one of the concepts is to hub at Kankakee and Joliet. So you hub at these exterior spaces, which then allows connectivity and movement between different spaces.
So the between cities, is most of it going to go between cities, or is it going to go within cities also? Like MTD, will this help MTD, or?
Yeah,
So
maybe we'll get light
do you
rail,
know the
huh?
proportion that would go between cities and the proportion that would go within cities?
Yeah, the horse trading is still there. Let us keep signing and sending information to our state reps, because there's a lot of horse trading to be done in this bill, and there's a lot of money that's going to become available, and it's going to be people, it's one of those things where if you have your plans and you are ready to go, and you have your, say, your bike pedestrian, you know, if you have your plans ready to go, if you have your stuff ready to go, you're going to be put front in line behind, you know, other people who are still trying to be like, do we want high-speed rail? I don't know. So that's the deal. So that was kind of one of my main focuses on bringing it here, was to really raise awareness that there will be money available, because I really would like better connectivity from downtown Urbana to Weaver Park to the Kickapoo Rail Trail, and there will be money available. Our community does qualify for these, you know, for these grants. So, yeah.
So the money available for street work that links sidewalks to transit, is that all going to be in that transit to trails grant, or is there, are
Nope.
there other?
That's the interesting, this other interesting bit. This slide. Allowing, it's the, when roads are built, sidewalk links to stops, boarding pads, and shelters can be included as standard elements. Like, I know a lot of us have seen people just standing on corners, and you just wish there was like a bus. You wish there was a, you know, waiting for a bus, and you just wish there was like a way for them to sit while they wait for the bus, or a shelter for them to be in, away from the elements. And so this is going to be, I think we're going to be allowed, when we work on streets, to start including more of this type of funding. We're going to be able to get funding for it, essentially, and be allowed to have funding for it, and not have to fight for it or say it's something special and extra, and it'll just be like a normal part, like a street cut. Yes, you'll do a street cutaway, and then there will be a bus shelter, right? So, again, it was just passed. But I kind of have a more you know sort of attitude towards these things. But yeah, so, and it's also this concept of the first last mile is very important. So in Urbana, because we've done such a great job keeping our city dense, keeping our roadways close, we don't have a very wide city, unlike other nearby cities. We might be able to qualify for a lot of that first last mile. I bet there's going to be first last mile grants, right? I bet there's going to be grants for that type of infrastructure. Now, the one thing I don't think any of us saw in here was bike lanes. So I'll be curious how they work that out, separate infrastructure. But I think for them, the focus was no one had honestly really paid attention to it, unless you get a big special grant at some point to do, like we're waiting for, on Green Street, we'd love a big special grant to do something nice on Green Street. This is just going to be the same way we fund highways. We're going to be funding our residential streets. So it's just incredibly exciting. I don't know, Shoshi, do you have anything to add? I mean, have you been following this bill? I had signed quite a few, signed quite a few petitions for it. But I guess the part that blew my mind was the eliminating parking minimums. I mean,
I didn't do like this kind of deep research like you did, but we're like very happy about this bill. And I know City of Champaign, I think they already reached out for data about this half mile of a hub, or they wanted to study for like where all the stops are and how would that affect their parking. So that's the latest that's the update I have.
that sounds like, that sounds like a great job for when we get a new city planner starting the first week in December. That strikes me as a Lily Wilcox. I'm just going to shout it out. I bet that's Lily Wilcox who read this and was like, let me get this data together. Yeah, that's really interesting that Champaign has already reached out about what that data is and what that wording is. And so that's good news. If Champaign has reached out with that data and wording, then that means that if Urbana were interested in similar information, we could just hop on that train, so to say.
Yeah, if MTD puts a map together of these, that would be awesome.
Okay. I'm getting more work, yes.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's going to be interesting because it's fascinating. I've never seen anything like this. People have been fighting parking minimums for as long as I can remember, and now they're just gone. Like in these areas, just no more discussion. Mandated throughout the state. Done. It's good news. Yeah, it's really good news. And it doesn't mean like in Champaign, they found when they got rid of the parking minimums, they built some right? They built some parking, but then they didn't have to build. Essentially what happens with a lot of our city ordinances right now is we're like, if you have 5 people, if you're building an apartment building for 20 people, you need to have 30 parking spots. So as a person like me who rented for many years and I never had a car, I was paying for that parking spot, even though I never used it. And yes, I did say, wow, I wonder if I could rent that out to somebody. But it's so instead of that first floor, that first level, what's happening in Champaign, instead of that first level being devoted to parking, there it's devoted to places for people to live, which is great. And we have a huge shortage of housing in Urbana and Champaign. So it's good news. I'd rather house people than cars. And it creates more bikeable, walkable neighborhoods, which is the whole point of the presentation.
Thank you much.
All right, cool. So I like to say I just summarized a 1,000-page bill in 10 slides.
Could you share that with us? Is
Absolutely.
It's linked?
Yeah, absolutely, I can. My question is I have not put alt text on the photos, so I would like to put alt text on the photos, right, Nancy?
You have a typo or two.
A typo. Oh, shoot, I got typos. Oh, no, now I got to get my typos. I don't know. I'll find it once you tell me. An other benefit? Oh, other benefits.
More easier, and make it more easier.
So I'll do an edit of this. We'll send it out. I also realized recently that you can put decks on LinkedIn. So I'll put it on LinkedIn as well. So it's easily shareable for people. And yeah, I'll go through, I'll edit. Thank you for that. Seriously, thank you for that suggestion. And I will put alt text on the images, and then I will share it with Carmen, who will upload it. I think it gets uploaded at some point to the meeting, or not. I don't know. But yeah,
You can add it to the meeting minutes.
Yeah, I'll definitely share it out. I think it's just a really good beginning, and I think it's a lot of hope right now, and I think a lot of us right now just need some hope. So I just really wanted to share the good news. So
All
I'm
right.
excited.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, so back to our meeting agenda. Does anyone have any announcements?
Well, I just want to thank the BPAC Commission for supporting the King Park application for OSLAD. I believe we've been pushed on to the next round, and we should know if we get the award by the end of 2026, so basically next month. And we've also... Sorry, yeah, end of 2025, before 2026. Yeah, so next month. We've also applied for a DCEO tourism grant. I believe this is what Champaign did for Skelton Park, and this will include the path that you're talking about in front of King Park. So we just applied for that, I think 2 weeks ago, and we should hear back probably early 2026. So 2 big grants.
Who are funding both those?
OSLAD, so
I'm not saying they're
Illinois,
100% funded, but yeah, if you get 'em.
Illinois Department of Natural Resources, and also Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity.
I had no idea. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. All right, congratulations. Well, I mean, I know they're not funded yet, but hopefully they will be.
Yeah. But thank you guys for your support, Carmen and Bruce, for writing the letter.
I guess I can let everyone know that we did a Day of the Dead celebration at Crystal Lake Park. It was very successful. Susan came, Kev came, Cynthia Hoyle was there. We got to do the watermelon drop again. We did a recap meeting last week, Friday, and one of the main organizers, Lucia, said that there was a young person there who just kept looking at the bikes because Jeff brought the bike truck with all the bikes in it, and finally Lucia said, "Well, do you want to ride one of the bikes?" He's like, "I don't know how. I've never ridden a bike. I don't have a bike." And so it was a very transformative day for that child, because that child got to ride a bike, and we did the. It was very exciting to see. We had the bike rodeo set up, and there were some people who just were mesmerized by it, who kept watching it, and they're like, "We really need one of these in our city." And I'm like, "Yes, I've been saying for years, yes." So that was really exciting to just watch people move through the bike rodeo space. And we did a bike ride around the park, and we had one person who had just started commuting on their bike, and I gave them my method of getting to work, and then you all gave your method of getting to work, and so I thought it was just a very inspiring event, and we'll be doing it again next year. I'm not quite sure, what format and what changes will be made to it, but essentially we will be continuing to make it a nice bike walk event for everybody. So I thought that was just really successful. It was a really beautiful day. It was great. There was a mariachi band there. I mean, whenever there's a mariachi band, life is good. So that was cool. I am going to have, there's something happening in downtown Urbana called the Immersion Festival, and it's also in conjunction with I think it's Tree and Lights is what it's called, and the Immersion Festival is December 13th from 6 to 9 p.m. And what that's going to be is projections. There's going to be lights displayed on Main Street, on Race, and in Crane Alley. There's going to be hot cocoa on the patio at Gallery Art Bar. And I'll be wearing a bright orange vest, and I will be handing out bike lights. So if anybody wants to join me, I will be on Main Street. I'll be walking around with bike lights, and I will be trying to deploy as many bike lights as I can that evening. So I'm going to encourage people to ride their bikes to the event. It's 6 to 9 p.m. It is very cool. It is light projections on buildings in downtown Urbana, and I will be there from 6 to 9. So I think that would be, so if anyone wants to join me, that'd be great. And there was something I spoke with Carmen about earlier today. I asked her if she thought it would be okay, because I was thinking about the discussion we had with the person who was trying to figure out biking, if it would be okay if we had just like a meetup at like 25 o'clock, and if people wanted to know how to get around on a bike or just talk about biking, if that was something anyone was interested in or someone wanted to work with me on. I'm more than happy to do it. I'm more than happy to figure out just a way to. This is what I'm trying to say, right?
The public education outreach.
Public
and events
education
group.
outreach. See, it's all coming together for us now.
Annie, have you heard of CU Urbanism Club? Because they've been doing different, like, similar type things of where they meet up at different community places to talk about stuff.
Yep, and so Yep, the CU Urbanism Group is great. I'm actually wearing my CU Urbanism t-shirt today. Well, it is. It's the people over parking. I kind of had to cover it at work. It's a people over parking t-shirt. Yeah. So yeah, something like that I think would be nice. Can just be casual. It doesn't have to be, but I just think it would be nice to be out more in the community, answering people's questions, and trying to help them figure out the wayfinding, whether it's, by bus or by bike or walking, just kind of trying to encourage that behavior. So I think those are all of my announcements. I thought I had one more thing. No idea. So yeah, I think that's it. Does anyone have anything else they want to add?
We still have one vacancy on BPAC, so if anyone knows someone who would be interested, who lives in Urbana, please reach out, have them apply online.
All right, we would love to have you join our merry crew. We would love to have you join BPAC. We're nice. So then I have my closing for the meeting. Before we officially end today's meeting, I would like to thank everyone for your work today. It is my hope that you leave this meeting feeling seen, heard, respected, and valued. The work we are doing together is important, and I thank you for your participation. With that said, if there are no objections, I call this meeting adjourned.